About 10 months ago, this device, the Samsung Chromebook Plus V2, showed up, and it kind of came up out of nowhere and in the middle of a lot of other devices being released at the same time. And when I first reviewed it and first took some time to actually use it as my daily driver, I wasn't that impressed, especially having come from the original Chromebook Plus and the Chromebook Pro that are its predecessors. But my mind has changed a little bit. This video is brought to you by NordVPN, and they are the VPN that millions of users rely upon because, well, they do the job well. They will keep your browsing secured and safe while you're out and about on the go on some open and maybe not secure Wi-Fi access points. If you're interested in learning more about them, go to chromeunbox.com/NordVPN and you can get started today. So the Samsung Chromebook Plus V2's had kind of an odd life cycle, honestly. When it first launched and I reviewed that initial device with the Celeron processor, there were just some things that they took steps back on from the original Chromebook Plus, namely the screen. So you went from a 3x2, 2400 by 1600, 400 nit panel down to this 16x10, slightly better than full HD, 300 nit panel. So that felt like a step backwards. They did upgrade the processor. The old one had that Rock chip, the 3399 in it, and this one kind of upgraded to a Celeron processor, but it wasn't a huge upgrade. It stuck with 4 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of internal storage, and it just didn't feel like they did enough new things with it. Not too long after that point, they introduced a Core M3 model, and my interest was kind of piqued again for this particular device because all of a sudden now, even though it was the Chromebook Plus, and I was expecting, well, hopefully a Chromebook Pro will follow it soon, the Core M3, it's the same Core M3 that's in like the HP X2, and it actually performs pretty well. So pair that with the same 4 gigs of RAM, and they started adding some different variations on the storage, and it became a little bit more interesting because the screen is still really good on this device, and it still has a built-in pen. It still is mostly aluminum build, so there's a lot of good stuff going on here, and now performance wasn't an issue at all. And really, the only concern I had at that point was still the price point. In general, you couldn't get the thing for less than $600. And when you start talking about the Dell Inspirons and the Lenovo Yogas and the HP X360, and then, you know, in that time frame, the Asus C434, the Flip, dropped into there, $600 became the price point where all the Chromebooks were under, and this one was barely under any of those in price point, and so it became really difficult to think, hey, I'm going to buy this instead of some of those other Chromebooks. So fast forward to just about a month ago as of the filming of this video, and all of a sudden we started seeing some pretty steep price drops on the Plus V2, and that's the point where I started to become insanely interested in this device again, because honestly, at $600, it just wasn't good enough or better than any of these other devices, and it felt, again, like too much of a step backwards at that price point. But all of a sudden, we start seeing this thing show up all over the place at around $400, and that changes things pretty dramatically. And it changed my outlook on this device and allowed me to kind of give it a real second look and actually sit down and start using it again and kind of think about it in a different way. So what are you getting for that roughly $400 price point? Well, it turns out a lot, honestly, when we stop thinking about, you know, $600 and $700 Chromebooks and we get into this price range here. This is bringing a lot to the table. So we're talking a 3/4 aluminum build. So the lid, the keyboard deck, the screen surround, all that stuff's all aluminum. It does have a plastic bottom on it. An excellent keyboard, an excellent trackpad, pen support, a 1920 by 1200, so it's a 16 by 10, so full HD plus screen with 300 nits of brightness, great colors, great viewing angles, and just decently slim bezels that make the whole thing look modern and great on a table. So I mean, you've got aesthetics looking good, you've got a Core M3 on the inside with 4 gigs of RAM, and again, this model we have that we got a hold of is 128 gigs of internal storage. You don't see that on a ton of Chromebooks, especially not in this price bracket. So altogether, this thing really checks a ton of boxes. No, it doesn't have backlit keys, and if that's a deal breaker for you, then sure, this isn't the Chromebook for you. But other than that, I can't really find any ways to fault this device. I do wish it was still 3x2. I love that aspect ratio, and I think it gives you more screen real estate for a smaller diagonal measure. For instance, the Pixelbook or the Pixel Slate feel bigger than the 12.3 inches that they are, but this is a 12.2 inch, 16 by 10 monitor. So In general, it feels bigger than it technically is, so it feels more like working on like a 13-inch laptop, but the form factor overall feels much smaller because the screen technically isn't that big. So you get portability here as well, great battery life. So again, it does a lot of stuff right, and once we bring the price bracket down into this $400 range, all of a sudden, it doesn't feel like you've made some trade-offs from the original Plus, which I don't think ever dipped down in its prime beneath 500 bucks. And all of a sudden you have a great device at a great price that once you buy it, you feel like, hey, I've made a good purchase here. And as I've looked at it in that light, as I've looked at it from that angle, using this device has just kind of become a joy. I really like it. I like the way it feels. I like the way the typing experience works. I like looking at the screen. I like how light it is in my bag. I like the battery life. I like having pen support and it being stowable and there for me whenever I need it. There's just so much to like about the Samsung Chromebook Plus V2 that it really makes me excited to think of what Samsung's got in store for us with the Chromebook Pro that we think is coming out hopefully this fall. So in the end, what I want to say is 10 months later, I feel like I can finally recommend this device to people that are looking at and thinking about buying it. Versus 10 months ago when I was like, I don't know if you're really all about Samsung or you really need a pen, maybe this is a good device. At this price, it's hard to find anything quite like the Samsung Chromebook Plus V2 that performs as well as it does and just feels great to use and is enjoyable to use on a day-to-day basis. What I would tell you is, A, don't pay MSRP. So if it's 600 bucks, do not buy that. It will go on sale again. You're just gonna have to look around. So we're not gonna post definitive links in here. We'll post a handful where they're on sale right now, but I don't wanna tell you, hey, go down to the description and click that link and that's gonna be the cheapest price because it's fluctuating all over the place right now and will continue to do so. I wouldn't pay more than 400 bucks for this thing. You can find it either used or brand new at a lot of places for $399. As we're filming this right now, you can buy the 64 gig version of this Core M3 powered device for $399 at Best Buy. And they usually run some student deals. So if you have a student in the house or you are a student yourself or you're studying something, they're not real hard to please as far as getting that student discount. You can probably knock another 50 bucks off of it too. So don't pay $600 for it. Don't pay $500. Don't even pay $450. So $399 and down. And I think you're going to be very pleased with your purchase if you decide to pick one of these Chromebooks up about 10 months into the game. But guys, that's been it for this one. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button down below too, and make sure and hit that notification bell if you'd like to be informed when we post new videos just like this one. Till next time, we'll see you.